Every Walking Dead fan has a character that makes their blood boil. Maybe it's a villain. Maybe it's someone who should have been on your side but somehow made everything worse. The thing is, the most hated character in this entire franchise never picked up a bat, never ran a colony, never even killed anyone on purpose. Her weapon of choice was bad communication, and it nearly destroyed the group faster than the walkers did. Let's start with the obvious pick, Lori Grimes. Lori Grimes is the consensus answer for most hated character in The Walking Dead, and that's almost funny when you think about it. She's surrounded by murderers, dictators, and literal psychopaths on this list, and somehow she still takes the crown. Her body count is 0. Her crime, being the worst communicator in the history of the apocalypse. Here's the thing. Her affair with Shane started under completely understandable circumstances. Rick was gone. The hospital was overrun. Shane genuinely believed his best friend was dead, and so did Lori. Two people found comfort in each other during the end of the world. That part makes sense. But then Rick came back, and Lori handled it like someone defusing a bomb by hitting it with a hammer. She turned on Shane almost immediately, created this toxic loop where Shane felt manipulated, Rick felt betrayed, and the entire group got caught in the blast radius. Lori didn't just stir the pot, she lit the match. When Shane and Rick finally collided, people died. Real, permanent consequences from one woman's refusal to have an honest conversation with either man in her life. And then, she died. Season 3. Childbirth in a prison with no medical equipment. Gone before any redemption arc could land. No closure, no growth, just pure unresolved frustration. Which is, not ideal, but at least Lori's damage was emotional. The next person on this list managed to be even more frustrating while also having every opportunity to actually be useful. Andrea. Andrea is one of the most frustrating characters in Walking Dead history, and the worst part is, it's not even her fault. Because the Andrea we got on TV is not the Andrea we were supposed to get. In the comics, Andrea was a fearless sharpshooter who survived longer than almost anyone. One of the most beloved characters in the entire run. The TV version? Universally despised. The gap between those two versions is genuinely painful. Here's what happened. Dale's death in Season 2 destroyed everything. In the comics, Dale and Andrea had this deep, grounding relationship that anchored her entire character arc. When the show killed Dale early, it ripped out the emotional foundation Andrea was built on. So instead of evolving into the capable survivor she was meant to be, she got shipped off to Woodbury and dropped straight into the governor's orbit. And then she just stayed there. This woman was a human rights attorney before the apocalypse. She had every tool to recognize a dictator when she saw one. But she clung to the illusion of the pre-apocalyptic world so hard that she spent half a season refusing to return to her friends despite mounting evidence that Woodbury was basically a horror show with nice curtains. She had a chance to slit the governor's throat in his sleep. She didn't do it. I don't know what to tell you. Even Laurie Holden, the actress who played her, called Andrea's Season 3 arc complete and utter nonsense. When the person playing the character thinks the writing is broken, that's not a great sign. Her death in the Season 3 finale was the final gut punch. Bitten by a walker the governor locked her in a room with, then shooting herself with Rick's revolver. A character who never got to become who she was meant to be. She's not evil. She's just painfully, inexplicably passive at the worst possible moments, and that might be more frustrating than actual villainy. But at least Andrea's biggest crime was standing still. The next guy on this list actively tried to get Rick killed, and the way it backfired is almost poetic. Spencer Monroe. Spencer Monroe had every single advantage a person could ask for in the apocalypse. His mother Deanna built Alexandria from the ground up. His father Reg designed the walls. His brother Aiden ran supply missions. Spencer literally grew up inside a fortified community with established leadership, infrastructure, and a family name that carried weight. And he managed to squander all of it because he was jealous of the new guy. Here's the thing about Spencer's hatred of Rick. None of it was principled. He was mad about Rick's romance with Jesse Anderson. He was mad that Rick prioritized Carl. He was mad that Rick left the safe zone too often. That's it. That's the whole list. It's not a political platform, it's a diary entry from a guy who peaked in high school. But Spencer's defining moment wasn't just being petty. It was being a coward about it. Rather than challenge Rick directly, rather than rally the community behind him, rather than do literally anything that required a spine, Spencer went to Negan, the tyrant currently extorting his entire community. And he tried to convince Negan to kill Rick so that Spencer could take over leadership. Let that sink in. He tried to use the man terrorizing everyone he knew as a personal hitman, and Negan, of all people, saw right through it. The guy who bashed Glenn's skull in looked at Spencer Monroe and thought, "This guy's pathetic." Negan told Spencer to his face that he had no guts. Then he pulled out a knife and proved it, disemboweling Spencer right there in the street. Which is, not ideal. Spencer reanimated as a walker within the same episode, only for Rick to personally stab him in the head. Died, came back, died again, all in one episode. Nobody mourned. When the show's most brutal villain thinks you're too spineless to respect, you've reached a special tier of pathetic. But at least Spencer only endangered himself with his scheming. The next guy on this list managed to put an entire community at risk through sheer cowardice. Gregory. Gregory is proof that you don't need to be physically dangerous to be the worst person in the room. You just need to be a coward with a title. This man was the leader of the Hilltop Colony. Walls, supplies, people, farmland. He had literally every structural advantage a leader could ask for in the apocalypse. And what did he do with it? He panicked. Every single time. The man couldn't kill a walker. He couldn't kill a human. He couldn't make a single decision that wasn't entirely about keeping Gregory alive for one more day. Which is, not ideal for the guy everyone's depending on. Here's the thing about Gregory. He wasn't just incompetent. He was arrogant about it, narcissistic, dismissive of everyone around him, and completely dependent on those same people for his survival. It's like watching someone who can't swim insult the lifeguard. He would use up everything Hilltop had, including all the people, if it meant his own life got slightly more comfortable. And when the savior showed up, Gregory didn't fight. He didn't strategize. He didn't even hesitate. He sided with Negan because his personal survival mattered more than his entire community. That's not a leader making a hard call. That's a man selling out every person who trusted him because he was scared. Here's a detail that says everything. The governor, a literal psychopath who kept severed heads in fish tanks, at least knew the names of his citizens. Gregory couldn't be bothered to learn Maggie's name, the woman who would eventually replace him and lead Hilltop through a war. He just didn't care enough to remember. Maggie publicly executed Gregory in the Season 9 premiere, and the community's reaction was closer to relief than shock. Worth noting that Maggie later gave Earl, a man who literally tried to assassinate her, nothing more than a short prison stay. So Gregory didn't just earn a death sentence. He earned one from someone willing to forgive attempted murder. That's how little redemption he had left. But if Gregory makes your blood boil, wait until you meet the Commonwealth's favorite failson, Sebastian Milton. Every character we've talked about so far has at least had some kind of excuse. Trauma, survival pressure, bad writing, whatever. Sebastian Milton has none of that. Zero. He's just a rich kid who decided the zombie apocalypse didn't apply to him because his mom runs the place. Sebastian is the son of Commonwealth Governor Pamela Milton, and he used that status like a golden ticket to be the worst possible version of a human being. We're talking about a spoiled, entitled narcissist who actively endangered people like Daryl and Rosita, not because he needed to survive, but because he genuinely viewed them as beneath him. He treated other survivors like NPCs in his own personal power fantasy, which is, not ideal when those NPCs are battle-hardened apocalypse veterans who could snap you like a twig. But here's the thing that makes Sebastian uniquely infuriating. In the comics, this guy killed Rick Grimes. The Rick Grimes. And it wasn't some epic final showdown. Sebastian broke into Rick's room, screamed at him like a brat throwing a tantrum, and shot him multiple times. All because he hoped that with Rick gone, his family would claw their way back to the top. That's it. A trust fund baby having a meltdown with a firearm. He was sentenced to life imprisonment for the murder, which honestly feels generous. And that's what separates Sebastian from every other annoying character on this list. His evil doesn't come from the apocalypse breaking him down, It comes from pure, undiluted entitlement. He's the guy who was born on third base, thinks he hit a triple, and then shoots the pitcher because the game isn't going his way. The Walking Dead community despises him not just for being spoiled, but for robbing the comics of a meaningful ending for Rick. Decades of storytelling, and the final thread is some kid who's never had to earn a single thing in his life. I don't know what to tell you, but if Sebastian represents what happens when privilege goes unchecked, the next entry shows what happens when a best friend goes completely off the rails. Shane Walsh. Up until now, every character on this list has been pathetic. Annoying? Sure. Cowardly? Absolutely. But pathetic. Shane Walsh is where we stop laughing and start locking the doors. Here's the thing about Shane. He started as Rick's best friend, fellow King County Sheriff's deputy. When the outbreak hit and Rick was in a coma, Shane genuinely believed his partner was dead. He got Lori and Carl out. He kept them alive. And somewhere along the way, he and Lori started a relationship which, given the circumstances, most people would understand. Rick was gone. The world ended, but then Rick came back. And instead of processing that like a human being, Shane's brain broke. By season 2, the man is consumed, not by walkers, not by the collapse of civilization, but by jealousy, pure, rotting jealousy. He can't let it go. He won't let it go. And he starts trying to murder his best friend to get what he wants. This isn't some heat-of-the-moment thing. This is calculated, and nowhere is that calculation more obvious than what he did to Otis. Shane and Otis are on a medical supply run for Carl. Walkers close in. They're not going to make it. So Shane looks at this man, apologizes, and shoots him in the leg. Then he strips the medical supplies off Otis's body while the man is still alive, still screaming, and leaves him to be devoured. Shane gets back to the farm, shaves his head to hide where Otis grabbed clumps of his hair out, and tells everyone Otis sacrificed himself. Sits at the man's memorial, says nice things. That's not survival instinct. That's a predator wearing a person suit. What makes Shane so uniquely awful is that he was genuinely capable, brave even. But he weaponized all of it in service of one thing: getting Lori back. A coward like Gregory can only hide. Shane could look you in the eye, shake your hand, and plan your murder over dinner. And the scariest part? His evil isn't some alien, incomprehensible thing. It's just jealousy. Regular, recognizable jealousy scaled up to murder. Which hits differently than a cartoon villain, because you've met someone like Shane. You just hope they never get handed a gun during the end of the world. But if Shane represents what one man's obsession can destroy, wait until you meet someone who built an entire town on lies, violence, and a fish tank full of severed heads. The Governor. Every character we've talked about so far has been frustrating, selfish, cowardly, maybe even dangerous. But the Governor is the first person on this list who is genuinely, irredeemably evil. Not annoying evil, not incompetent evil, the kind of evil that makes you uncomfortable just watching it. On the surface, Woodbury looked like a miracle. Clean streets, functioning infrastructure, people eating dinner at tables like the world hadn't ended. And the Governor sold that illusion beautifully. He was charismatic, composed, and spoke like a man who genuinely cared about rebuilding civilization. But behind closed doors, this guy was running a torture chamber, keeping his undead daughter Penny locked in a private room like some kind of twisted pet, and murdering anyone who threatened his grip on power. He compartmentalized his public persona and his private madness so completely that Woodbury's people had zero idea what they were actually living under. Here's where it gets genuinely disturbing. His treatment of Maggie during her captivity wasn't just cruelty for strategic purposes. He humiliated her, terrorized her, used the threat of sexual violence as a weapon to break her and Glenn down. This wasn't interrogation. This was a man who enjoyed wielding power over people because he could. And he went right back to giving speeches about community and safety the next morning, like nothing happened. But the thing that separates the Governor from every other villain on this show is what he wanted. Negan wanted tribute. Negan wanted a system. The Governor wanted annihilation. He launched attacks on the prison that made zero strategic sense, throwing soldiers at heavily fortified positions with no clear endgame beyond destroy Rick's group entirely. He didn't want to win. He wanted to erase. And when his own people finally started questioning him, when Woodbury's citizens hesitated to follow him into another pointless battle, he turned his gun on them, massacred his own people on the side of the road, the ones he'd been claiming to protect for months, then just drove off and disappeared. That's not a leader who lost control. That's a dictator who ran out of people to blame and decided everyone was the enemy. His evil was arguably purer than Negan's, completely resistant to rationalization, zero moral complexity. He didn't struggle with his choices. He didn't justify them with philosophy or rules. He just destroyed things because the alternative was admitting he wasn't in control. And while his total body count might not match what comes next, the quality of his cruelty is almost unmatched in this entire series. Speaking of what comes next, if the governor represents evil without purpose, then Negan represents something arguably worse. Evil with a system. Negan, early season, his introduction changed everything. Not just the story, not just the tone, but the actual DNA of the show. When Negan stepped out of that RV in the season 6 finale, emerging from the darkness to berate Rick for killing his men, the series crossed a line it could never walk back from. And in his hand was a barbed wire-wrapped baseball bat named Lucille, named after his wife, who died of cancer. Let that sit for a second. His weapon of mass terror is also his grief made physical. Every skull he caved in, every kneecap he shattered, he did it while gripping a monument to the woman he lost. That's not just violence. That's something deeply psychologically broken operating at full capacity. And then he used it to kill Abraham. And then Glenn, same night, same bat. Two of the most beloved characters in the entire series, eliminated in a single episode of pure, suffocating dread. The audience had never experienced anything like it. The characters hadn't either. Rick Grimes, the man who had fought through hordes of walkers, killed the living without hesitation, stared down the governor, and survived, was reduced to a trembling, sobbing wreck on his knees. That's what Negan did in one night. But here's the thing. Here's what separates Negan from every other name on this list. The governor burned everything down. He massacred his own people, torched Woodbury, and launched suicidal assaults on fortified positions because he couldn't handle losing control. His evil was pure, sure, maybe even purer than Negan's, but it was also self-destructive. It collapsed under its own weight every single time. Negan built something that worked. The savior system wasn't random violence. It was institutionalized brutality, spanning Alexandria, the hilltop, and the kingdom. Thousands of people, all paying tribute, all starving so Negan's people could eat. There was a direct mathematical relationship between his extortion and community starvation. He didn't just hurt people. He created a machine designed to keep hurting people indefinitely, and he staffed it, maintained it, and expanded it with the efficiency of someone running a corporation. A corporation where the product was misery and the quarterly earnings were measured in broken spirits. The governor wanted destruction. Negan wanted dominion. And dominion is worse, because destruction ends. Dominion keeps going, even censored for television, even stripped of the profanity and crude humor that defined him in the comics. Early seasons, Negan radiated contempt in every interaction. AMC wouldn't let him swear, but it didn't matter. The condescension, the theatrical cruelty, the way he could make a joke while holding a blood-soaked bat, all of it came through. He didn't need the F word. He had Lucille. What makes Negan the worst character The Walking Dead ever produced isn't just what he did. It's that he built a system designed to keep doing it forever. The governor was a fire. Negan was a machine. And machines don't burn out. They just keep running until someone finds the courage to pull the plug. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.